Now joining us is the former Ranger and now is an analyst on the MSG Network for Rangers hockey. It was great after the game last night, and that is Ron Duguay, who's kind enough to hop on board with us right now. Ronnie, we appreciate a few minutes. Thanks for the time, and how are you?
I'm doing well. Rangers win. It's always a better day the following day. What's on your mind? What are you thinking about the Rangers?
What am I thinking? That this team, you never know which team's going to show up. In game number 3, I was sitting there in Madison Square Garden, and I couldn't believe the bad offensive performance. But then in game number 4, they changed something. What did you see change last night with the Rangers? Because they were a different offensive team in game number 4.
Well, they essentially went back and did what they did game 1 and game 2. They just relaxed. They just went out and played the game. For whatever reason, they were extremely flat in game 3. All the talk of them struggling playing at home, we saw all the things that they have done in the past where they've struggled. And people ask me, how do you explain that? Well, I said, you got to understand, when teams go to Madison Square Garden, they love playing there. And some of the teams that have beat them in the past are teams like Washington, Tampa, Pittsburgh. And those teams, like the Rangers, are good teams, and good teams win on the road. So it's not easy playing at Madison Square Garden for those reasons. When you're playing good teams, they love to play the Garden. They love to go in there and try to upset the Rangers. So the Rangers, if they tend to get a little relaxed playing at home, then they struggle some. And I think they just put on a different game face last night. I think they just pretended they're on the road, and they just went out and played hard in a different way. You got to play hard, but you also have to stay relaxed and still make plays. The other thing I felt that they did a little bit different, they were more passionate in their own end. Their coverage was better. I liked how they got angry when anyone got near Lundqvist. And so overall, they were just a lot more engaged. And it just made for a better game. Of course, when you play hard, you got to get some good bounces. So they got some good bounces go their way. And for the most part, they were the better team.
Now, there was a lot of nervous energy in the building last night, and the first period, it almost went perfect for the Rangers besides the final 2 minutes where Montreal gets a goal, and then they get a power play opportunity, and it carries over into the second period. I heard you made the point after the game that you liked how aggressive the Rangers were on the PK, and really that aggressive play really did set the tone for a second period that I thought was the best second period and the best period of the Rangers postseason in this concise 4-game period.
Yeah, well, first period, they had a good first period, but they still had some giveaways because Lundqvist had to stop 2 breakaways.
No question.
They still weren't playing great. They got away with it. So Lundqvist was really good at the right time. He kept them in it. And then, of course, they're having to kill that power play, and that was really important for them to come out in the second period and still improve on what they did in the first period. And a lot of that had to do with a good penalty kill. A good penalty kill now is just knowing what you're going up against. And, they dissect everything in the playoffs, so they kind of have an idea what Montreal is trying to do, and it's no surprise when they're trying to get the puck to Weber. So if you kind of know that's going to happen, you kind of play off of that. But a lot of it is just being aggressive and just anticipating where the puck's going to go.
With Rick Nash, because we all know earlier in his Rangers career he did struggle in the postseason, and now fans still use that narrative. But you've seen the last 13 games, he's been brilliant. As we're talking to Ron Duguay, Nasher has 7 goals and 6 assists in his last 13 playoff games, and he really did rise up to the occasion last night, getting the game-winning goal. How about Nash?
A lot of that had to do where he made a commitment a year, maybe 2 years ago. He made a commitment to get it in better shape. And so he's had a better start to seasons where you gain some confidence. But being in better shape allows you to endure much longer. So when March comes around, you're not running on steam, on an empty tank. You're just still going strong because of all the training you've done through the course of the summer. So his legs have gotten stronger, and we're seeing that. He's been really consistent all year because of his leg strength, being able to go hard at the end of a shift, hard at the end of a period, and regardless of what's going on, he can still tap into a reserve, which I think in the past he hasn't had. And when you're playing that way, it's hard to play that way when you want to do well, but if you don't feel well, it's hard to do well.
And we mentioned Nash. We also look at another top player for the Rangers in Ryan McDonough. He's been sensational all year long, having a plus 20 in the regular season. But last night, you talk about some of those odd man rushes that the Canadians had. There was one, it was a 2-on-1, and McDonough just took the puck away with a nice poke check and some desperation play. With the captain, that was just an inspirational effort that you saw from Ryan McDonough last night.
Right. Well, we talked about last game being a game where if the Rangers don't win, that would have been the end of the series.
Agreed.
And it would have been something similar to what they went through last year. So they're in desperate mode last night, and certain players need to step up. And if you're the captain of the team, that's your job. I mean, you got to just play to a different level, and you got to get everyone else buying into how you're playing. And so because of McDonough have the great speed and strength that he has, there's a lot of things that he can do that sometimes, even when you get yourself in a little bit of trouble as a defenseman or any player, when you have the speed to make up for it, that makes a big difference. And with his speed, he's got great desire. So he was a big player for the Rangers last night.
I don't know how much praise Smith is getting, but Smith was one tough SOB last night, especially when the rest missed a lot of penalties and his hand was just getting abused last night. But I thought Smith was very underrated in that game, Ron. How about yourself?
Yeah, if you slow things down, you watch the little things that he does, you get to see how he's taken his game to another level. I guess I would have to say I was a little disappointed when he first got to the Rangers because I thought there'd be more bite to him. And I think what it was, he was just, uncomfortable being a New York Ranger playing at the Garden and just kind of playing it safe. But now that he's comfortable playing, he's brought out this toughness that he has in him, and that's what it takes in the playoffs because players are trying to take advantage of a certain situation or fight territory in front of the net, and you can't allow it. If they know they can get away with it, they will. So with him, he's standing his ground, and he's getting angry at the right players.
So now this is a new series that's tied up at 2 games apiece, and we talked about some of the luck that the Rangers got away with last night and some of the bad play and some sloppy play, especially earlier on in the game. How do the Rangers tighten that up, though, and not allow those odd man rushes coming up in game number 5?
Well, the mindset is not to do that. It just kind of happens. And so I guess it's just this constant reviewing and it's brainwashing from the coaches. And how do you do that? Well, you just go back to, you want to watch a little bit of video, not too much. You want to watch a little bit of situational play. And it's just every player has to prepare his own way to know what is the most important thing for him to do in a game. And when coaches talk about, play without the puck, right? And so you have to, as an individual, walk through your position, whether you're a winger, a centerman, or a defenseman, and just know the things that you should be doing, things you should be doing, and then you just hope that once you step on the ice, everyone's on the same page, and they're trying to play a perfect game.
If you have to be clairvoyant, and if you have to predict what this Rangers offense is going to look like in game number 5, what type of effort do you think we'll see from the Rangers offensively coming up tomorrow night?
I think the last night's game will get them in a good place, confidence-wise. I mean, I believe they know they can beat Price. Price is beatable in certain situations. If you take long shots on him where he's not screened, he's going to stop that all as long as like playing catch. But they know the type of situations they got to get themselves in to try to score on this guy. I've said from the beginning of the series that I believe the Ranger forwards have more upside to them than Montreal. Montreal is more of a hard-nosed, grinding type of a game they play under Coach Julian. They're not a fancy team, but they'll play hard against you. Where the Rangers can play hard, but they're still, I believe, there's more skill in them where they can make plays. And with what they've gone through, and that's what happens in playoff series. You either you're going to grow and learn and get better, or you're going to not grow and just the better team will win overall. Because a lot of it is just, that's why they play 4 out of 7. It's a battle of strength and will. And I like the character of the New York Rangers.
Wrapping up with Ron Duguay is kind enough to join us. You can catch her on MSG. Their television network does a great job. I was watching him last night with former Ranger Steve Valiquette. Let's get to the goaltender and Henrik Lundqvist. We know how good he is, and it's just a given at this time of the year that he's going to perform at the level that he is. But going back to earlier this year in the regular season, even though it was a successful season for the King, it was not one of his better years consistently from the start to the finish. But right now, at the end of the year, he's playing his best hockey. Just how about the ability of the King, even with all the ups and downs this year, to just flip that switch and get ready to go when it matters the most?
Yeah, there was some real doubt, even in me, to what we were going to see in Game 1 because of his being inconsistent and how he was playing the game. I think he was his worst enemy, a little too hard on himself, putting too much pressure on himself. The goaltending position's hard enough like it is, like the quarterback in football. So much lies upon how you play and how the team does. And so I think he was just putting too much pressure on himself. And I think Game 1 went well where the team in front of him played solidly defensively and allowed him in that first 10 minutes to kind of, make some saves and take a breath of fresh air and just relax and tap into what he's done in the past. So credit the Rangers in Game 1 to give him a chance to be good. And I think he's now at a place where he feels comfortable and he knows that he can do what he's done in the past.
What impresses you the most about his game? Because it's been over a decade. We know how good he is. He's played well enough in the postseason to deserve a Stanley Cup, but hasn't been able to obtain one. Just what impresses you the most after all these years with Henrik Lundqvist?
I think his will to want to be the best that he can be. Like he always talks about, he needs to work harder. He needs to work harder, and he actually does. And that's kind of what I think might be an issue with him sometimes. Sometimes it's not necessarily working harder. Sometimes you just got to give yourself a break and work less and just relax and just understand your position. So his work ethic more than anything else, and his leadership, and he provides a lot of leadership for the rest of the guys on the team because of his compete level. And he does the same thing in practice. Guys will tell you it's hard to score on him in practice. So he wasn't a high draft pick, and he's gotten to where he's at just through a lot of hard work and determination.
Shifting gears, you've been in locker rooms before, clearly, and you know what's said when the media isn't in there trying to get all these answers out of you guys. But when the guys are in the locker room talking about Gallagher, that little pest, what are they saying about Gallagher?
Well, you can almost have respect for the guy because of how he plays. I mean, he's not a big guy, plays like a big man. And if I had my choice, he'd be my team. But if I was playing against him, I'd want to hurt him. Because he can be so annoying, right? But I do have respect for him because he plays hard.
Do you consider the Canadians a dirty team?
They're playing playoff hockey. That's what playoff hockey's like. I mean, the idea is to throw your opponent off, and you want to frustrate them. You want to get them to retaliate on a hit that you caused. If you don't touch anyone, if you don't play a little bit chippy, well, nothing's going to happen. You got to keep in mind, every time you hit someone, there's a chance he's going to turn around and retaliate and put you on a power play. Every time you hit someone, there's a chance that player could get hurt. Not that you want to hurt anyone, but if he's out of the lineup because he strained his ankle, or if he's not an ankle, but a shoulder or a wrist or whatever, and you can get someone off his game by finishing your check, that's huge, especially if you're hitting a top player.
Ron, before we let you run, as we're talking to Ron Duguay, wrapping up with the former Ranger, as we get ready for this game number 5, you all know the tradition and what it's like to be a Ranger, and you saw it at MSG where they bring back all the former players and all the marketing campaign that they have right now. When you reflect on your Rangers career, the 2 stints that you did have in New York, which is the best place to play and just a tremendous probably feeling as a player, how do you reflect on your Rangers career?
A mix. I mean, I'm very fortunate and blessed to have been drafted by the Rangers, wear the Ranger jersey, played Madison Square Garden, witnessed the Ranger fans. My disappointment is I didn't play long enough in New York. I mean, I played 7 years, and I ended up getting traded away by a coach that didn't quite like my lifestyle. and so, yeah. And so I would have liked to have played at least 10 years. I would have liked to have won a Stanley Cup there. I would have liked to have scored more goals there. So I wasn't there long enough. But you got to just be grateful for what you have. And the fact that I've come full circle and I get to do what I'm doing now, which is an analyst and talk Ranger hockey and still go to the Garden and be surrounded by Ranger fans, then I'm okay.
If you could do it differently, what would you do differently?
I would have been in by 2 a.m. instead of 4.
Not a bad lifestyle you were living, Ron. And I can tell you right now, I have a friend of mine, my mother's friend. She still talks about how she would stalk you on the roads because she had the biggest crush on you.
Yeah, no, I know. Fans have been good to me. And when I say that, I'm exaggerating. Listen, we had fun. But usually the night before a game, I mean, we'd be in and we'd be resting. I wouldn't overdo it. It kind of looked worse than what it was, but I did have my fun. I had great teammates. I really did. We had a blast. And one of the reasons why we went to the finals is that we were a group that was really tight, and we played hard on the ice. We played hard off the ice.
Well, Ron, we hope to see a lot more on the television, and hopefully we get a few more Rangers win in this postseason. We appreciate the time. Always fun to talk to you.
All right, good talking with you all.
There's Ron Duguay joining us on the Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920 The Jersey. As we all know, the life that he lived. He had fun. He definitely did. And I'll tell you, my mother's friend, every single time the name Ron Duguay comes up, and whenever we have Ron come on the show, my mom always sends me a text or gives me a call. You know, my friend Karen had the biggest crush, and whenever the Rangers played in Washington, D.C., and they played against the Capitals, she would drag me to the game, and we would then stalk Ron Duguay. And one time, Ron actually gave my mom's friend Karen a autographed stick, and maybe he gave her a little bit something else as well. Hey-ho, you never know about that. 609-919-9200. This is the Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920 The Jersey. So the Rangers, they do get the victory last night. Good to see the offensive effort, and now it's time to replicate that effort in game number 5. As game number 5, you go out 3-2, take it back to the Garden, and have a chance to clinch at the Garden. You would definitely sign for that after the Rangers went down in a 2-1 hole in this series. This has been a Rangers group. You have this core. This has been a core that has been unbelievable, and they've done everything possible except win a Stanley Cup. Maybe they have one more chance to do that this year.